You know, one of the themes of Matter Behavioral Health is building a bridge to self. And I wonder if we could start there. Maybe, Linda, you could tell us, when you say building a bridge to self, what would that refer to?
It refers to taking charge of your own life, getting acquainted with who you really are, and beginning to understand what you may be consciously aware of and what you may not be, because it's deep in the subconscious, which you have now begun to believe is you, but it's only a program that you've created.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. For a lot of us, we don't really know who we are, or we forget who we are?
True, absolutely.
Wow, what causes that to happen?
Oh, life. Life comes at us, and we begin to feel like, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to hear that, and that makes me feel bad, and we have pain, and we create walls or blocks, what we'll call a program, and we don't even recognize it's there. We're just dealing with life as it comes. And to begin to understand the subconscious and to know that it's just a program, and we created it through the laws that govern the subconscious, repetition, compounding, and that law reverse effect. And we don't know that we've put it in there. But we said in our conscious mind at some point in time, boy, that hurts. I don't want to feel that anymore. And subconscious takes us literally, and we have a program with repetition.
Okay. So oftentimes you find yourselves dealing with people who, for instance, become addicted to substances or behaviors as part of that losing touch with themselves, correct?
Absolutely. Oftentimes, those are what bring about those dysfunctional behaviors of whether it's addiction, eating disorder, other kinds of dysfunctional behaviors, is those actual subconscious programs. If conscious realize the things that it can do to change those subconscious programs, I don't think any of us really wake up one morning and yawn and say, you know what, I'm going to become a drug addict today, or I'm going to become antisocial.
Right.
It's a process. And there is also a healing process. But one of the very first things that's most important that, like we've talked about, is to be able to begin, and it's a process, but to begin to remember who we truly are. And those programs can be changed. We were not born with these dysfunctional thoughts and feelings. They're programmed into us, like Linda said, through our life over a period of time. And they can be reprogrammed. The subconscious itself is programmed through repetition and compound. And there's an actual technique. It can be called either an anchor or a programmed response, where you ask a person to have a certain thought or a certain feeling of a good state, and then have them touch them somewhere, maybe on their hand. And while they think of that good thought and that good feeling of confidence or whatever, and then break state, talk of something else, and then repeat that. Think again of confidence, break and touch your hand. Break state, think again of confidence. Touch your hand, break state. And they touch their hand after that, and they automatically have that feeling of confidence.
They've reprogrammed it.
They've reprogrammed it.
Wow.
There's some very simple ways of doing this.
And the reason that works is because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So when I'm touching a place on my hand and saying, I'm putting confidence here, my conscious says, that's crazy. My subconscious accepts it. It just is.
Now, I want to make clear for people listening, the two of you actually have a lot of depth in your backgrounds. Linda, let's establish the two of you are doing what you're doing, not because you just stumbled upon this idea. Hey, let's try something nobody's ever done before. But both of you have really pretty impressive backgrounds.
Well, for me, Janey teases me sometimes and calls me Molly. I have 10 children. I had a temple marriage. After quite a number of years of marriage, at 27, I went back to school, got my RN, and ended up working at the State Mental Hospital. And Janey was working there, and after 2 years of my working there, we decided to start our own company.
Janey, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, first, if I may, Brian, I'm very flattered that you say impressive background. I My name is Janey Marvin, and I'm a recovering addict alcoholic, and I thank God that I'm in recovery. So I kind of come somewhat from the school of hard knocks. However, in 1976, I began working for the Utah State Mental Hospital in Human Services, and it's been my passion ever since. I got introduced to paradigm theory by Thomas Kuhn in 91 and began studying him. He went back to Max Planck, a German physicist, and Albert Einstein. Then I began to study some NLP through Robert Fletcher. I have had some incredible opportunities in life, and it's been, if I may, and please forgive me if you must, it's been my addiction to find out how the brain works. And there's just incredible information today. They know a lot. Yeah, so
I was trying to describe to Kate when I mentioned that the two of you would be on the show this morning. I said, you're going to see that Janey and Linda are a perfect example of how yin and yang works here. Yeah. Janey has a very scientific, methodical kind of approach, and Linda has kind of a nice spiritual. They just complement each other very well. And Janey, actually, when we spoke a few weeks ago, I asked you what would be the most important message that we could convey to our listeners, and particularly in the context of having a loved one, for instance, maybe addicted to meth or something like this, and you gave me a very powerful answer. What's the message we want people to take away? There's
always hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. It isn't so that you can change a program that's already exists in the subconscious. However, we can create new programs. Our programs are actually created through literal neural paths through our brain and then throughout the rest of our body. And we have enough central nervous system in us that if you could take it all out and put it in a big line, it would go from the Earth to the planet Venus.
Wow.
And that's how much capacity we have for programming. And programming is very easily done. We reprogram just through life's experience, a different experience, and then I do something else, and then a different experience, and I do something else, et cetera, and pretty soon I'm just doing that all the time. One of the really important things, too, is to help people learn how to read their own subconscious. And we teach our clients how to do this, too, how to read their own subconscious, to begin to know the person that they are today. And if we don't know who we are today, it's really hard to change who we are or to remember who we were. We have our clients practice a really simple technique, if I may call it that, where we ask them to fold their arms a certain way and see, how do you feel? Are you comfortable? Do you feel safe and secure? And then we'll say, you know what? You can't fold your arms like that anymore. We're not putting up with it. No arm folding like that. You've got to...
You guys are strict.
Yes. You've got to fold your arms in a completely different manner. And so the first thing they have to do is look and see, well, how are my arms folded? And then they have to fold it completely opposite. And that's actually kind of confusing the first time that you try doing that. And oftentimes our clients will feel very uncomfortable just folding their arms different.
Right.
So change isn't easy. When you get changing, though, and get remembering the person that you truly are, it becomes very exciting. Very exciting.
Well, it's the whole Pavlov conditioning. I mean, that sounds like you're trying to break those molds. Does this work better with some addictions than others? I mean, are some addictions easier to deal with and not cure, but help them to get into recovery faster?
What I say to our clients is that the addiction is only a sign and symptom of the underlying issues that we have. So what we teach is applicable for anybody and everybody. We have clients that say, I need to go home and teach my children, and really believe that this information ought to go out to all of the schools, to the public, because really, whether it's heroin or alcohol or pain pills, whether it's sex or it's gambling, it's just a behavior to not have to deal with the pain and look at yourself.
Right. Do you deal with everything from pornography to any kind of addiction? I mean, are you dealing with just about everything? Does it run the gamut of...
It does.
Wow.
It does. And how it comes out, is the individual. And usually it's whatever's available at the time. It gets to be such a drive inside to not have to feel the way I'm feeling anymore. And in that process, they get introduced to pain pills because they've had an injury. Or they're at a party and somebody says, how about a little pot? But it becomes not just one single addiction. It's whatever is going to help you to not have to think and not have to feel.
Do you ever see that addiction to misery? Because I saw a clip last night. Somebody was talking and they said, I don't know how to be happy. I don't know what happiness feels like, and I'm not comfortable in happiness. Do you see that with people, that they get, we're creatures of habit, but we're also creatures of habit to this norm of not being able to be happy? I don't know.
All of our emotions, as well as our thoughts and our behaviors, they're just subconscious programs. And absolutely, there's those underlying emotions and negative thought that people have that lead to the different actual substance kind of addictions and things. You think a thought and have a feeling, and then respond on it. The thoughts have to be changed to change the feeling. We actually have, Linda and I have created quite a few techniques based on how the subconscious and conscious work. And we actually have a technique that we call it a shift, and we have the client put out like that negative, I'm not able to be happy. Imagine it in front of you on the floor, not being able to be happy. And then we teach them a lot about just the human senses and the functions of the human senses and recognizing different sensory datas. So we have them just symbolize that, for example, not being able to be happy through the human senses. If not being happy had a color and shape, what color and shape would it be? What sound might it make? How might it smell and taste? What would its texture be?
Right.
And then we have them take a step to the right, and I do the right because it's what I call a phonological ambiguity. Right means, go to the right, and it also means rather than wrong. So I have them take a step to the right, and then put out in front of them, imagine a place on the floor where they are able to experience joy and happiness. And if experiencing joy and happiness for you, if it had a sound, what sound would it make?
I see.
Had a color and a shape. If it had and then we have them come back to where they began and see if they can't kind of make the different symbols more similar in focus and volume, and then thank and dismiss the one that they'd rather not have and invite the other over.
Are you more of an out treatment, or do you have people that you work with that stay in? Or is it an in treatment? What kind of, is it a facility where they
Yes, it is. We're actually a 31-bed residential inpatient treatment facility located in Mount Pleasant.
Excellent.
Yeah, we love it.
That. That's great. And you can do outpatient too.
Yes, we do outpatient too. And we're also can do workshops and seminars. I agree. I think everyone could benefit from knowing how do my minds work. We have a brain. We ought to have the right to know how to work it ourselves instead of thinking that it's just I am what I am and that's all that I am.
I know this has to be sparking some interest in some people. Maybe they have a loved one. Maybe they're dealing with some behavioral issues themselves that they want to get to the root of. For those who want to contact you, what's the best route to go, or even to learn more? Do you have a website you can point them to?
We do have a website. It's our name. They call us MATTER, M-A-T-R. It's an acronym. It stands for Measures of Affect Theoretically Relative, and I won't go into that, but it's...
I can't say that 10 times fast, so
we call it MATTER.
What was the acronym again?
M-A-T-R.
Okay.
And our website is just matterbehavioralhealth.com.
Okay.
If they'd like to just call the facility, the number is 435-462-2781, and we'd be happy to talk. I know just even if somebody needs to talk, or somebody would like to learn more and doesn't have an addiction, you don't have to have an obvious dysfunctional behavior, to have an interest in how does my brain work and how can I best use it. So
very good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Janey and Linda, thank you so much for coming in today. I appreciate the fact that you traveled down here, and I really believe this is a message of hope. Somebody is here